Good morning. We are here at the Doobie Shop School of Cosmetology, and we are preparing for a natural hair State Board practical drill for the North Carolina State Board of Cosmetic Arts. North Carolina is still one of the only states that still requires a natural hair license, so that's why we're doing this video to show you guys what you can expect, because it's a little hard to find videos showing you what you can expect from a natural hair drill. So we're going to start from the top with setup, and you're going to hear something that sounds like this. You will prepare your work area for your client. You will set up the universal supplies you will use throughout the examination. You will also set up the supplies for the following section of the examination: extension to visible cornrow braid, invisible cornrow braid, and extension to individual braid. You will prepare your client for services. You'll be expected to follow all client protection, safety, and infection control procedures. You will have 15 minutes to complete this section. You will be informed when you have 8 minutes remaining. Do not demonstrate any procedures until the verbal instructions are given and you are instructed to begin. Step back to indicate you have finished. The instructions will repeat. You will prepare your work area for your client. You will set up the universal supplies you will use throughout the examination. You will also set up the supplies for the following section of the examination: extension to visible cornrow braid, invisible cornrow braid, and extension to individual braid. You will prepare your work area for your services. You will be expected to follow all client protection, safety, and infection control procedures. You will have 15 minutes to complete this section. You'll be informed when you have 8 minutes remaining. Do not demonstrate any procedures until the verbal instructions are given. Step back to indicate you're finished. You may begin. So the timer is going to go off, and you're going to start by disinfecting your area first. But first, you want to pull out your hand sanitizer and your disinfectant. Every time you go in and out of your bag, you want to sanitize your hands. And that's going in and out of your kit bag or any of your general supply or your supply bags. So now that I've sanitized my hands, I'm going to pull the rest of the items out, my infection control items, and I'm going to disinfect my area. Now, State Board, you can no longer use aerosol type disinfectants like this. It has to be EPA registered, either Lysol wipes or sprays. It can no longer be aerosol. I have my first aid kit, my disinfectant, EPA registered or hospital grade, and my sanitizer. You also have a container labeled for trash or soil implements, and another container labeled for implements to be disinfected. Your implements to be disinfected items are going to be items like your combs, your brushes, any of your tools. Your trash is going to be things like hair, end papers, anything that you're going to throw away. And when you leave State Board, you can go in and separate your bag however you need to. But you do need to have 2 bags. Now, they do prefer that you use trash bags now, like the paper trash bags, instead of taping the plastic bags onto the tables at State Board in North Carolina. So you can get the trash bags. You can purchase them at any grocery stores like Aldi's, or you can also purchase the smaller, like lunch style bags from like Dollar General. But you do need a bag label for trash that you put under your station, and another label for soil implements for like your towels and your implements. So now that we're set up and disinfected, you always want to put down a protective covering after you disinfect your area to make sure that there's no contact with any of your implements and your station, to make sure that you're following your safety infection control procedures. So now that I have my towel on my station, these are my general supplies that are going to be used throughout the first section. And you want to put your mannequin stand on. There you go. And you have 15 minutes for this section, so you don't have to feel rushed. State Board wants to make sure you have the proper time to properly disinfect your area. So don't rush. The only thing you need to do is focus on disinfecting your area and setting up your client, preparing your client for services. Mannequin. And then we're going to go into our next procedure. This will be evaluated on the following tasks. Extension to visible cornrow supplies are labeled in English. Implements and supplies are visibly clean. And extension hair is added to the cornrow. You will also be graded on the final appearance of the extension to the visible cornrow braid and maintaining your drape throughout the section of the examination. Now, at no time should this cape come in contact with her mannequin or your client's skin. That's why you want to make sure you use a child cape for the mannequins because it's smaller, or you also use a paper towel or a neck strip and a towel to make sure that your cape does not come unsecure during your examination, because you will receive points off if your cape comes in contact with the client's skin. Once again, you want to make sure you're sanitizing your hands every time you go in and out of your kit, every time you go in and out of one of your supply bags as well. Your bag or your kit for Stateboard can be no larger than 30 by 30. And for safety reasons, all kits, trash bags, etc. must be able to fit under your work area. A flat bottom grocery bag may be used for items to disinfect, store linen, and trash and place on the floor under the station that this be cleaned. The bag or containers on the floor may be opened during the examination so candidates can drop items in as appropriate, and bags and containers must be kept in the work area, cannot be placed in the walk-in area. If placing a container with items to be disinfected on your work area, it must have a covered top. If it does not have a covered top on it, then it is airborne and it is not using the safety infection control procedures if it's airborne. This area that we are working on today is going to be about the size area that you're going to have to work on at Stateboard as well. So you want to make sure that you're able to keep all your items in your section and you're not overlapping beyond your work area. You have 8 minutes remaining. Once you're finished with your section, you want to step back and stand behind your chair so the examiner can come and examine your work. That lets them know that you are finished and you are ready to proceed to the next section. We have about 4 to 5 minutes remaining. While they are finishing up, just a quick few tips for Stateboard. You want to make sure you arrive early for Stateboard. If you have an examination time in the morning at 9 a.m., I suggest that you spend the night over if you don't live in the city that your exam is in. You want to make sure you factor in traffic time, any car issues or trouble that you may have, because once you pay for that exam, if you do not make that exam date, you will not get a refund. And the examination starts properly at 9 o'clock. So at 8:59, that door will probably be locked. They're going to come outside, they're going to call out a list of names that are scheduled to take that exam, and those are going to be the only individuals allowed to enter into the building. You cannot have any outside guests coming to the building, and you also cannot have your cell phones on. You want to make sure you have on how you're dressed today is perfect. Something nice and clean, no large names on it, no heavy jewelry, earrings, bangles that's going to be causing to interfere with your examination. You also cannot have your bags or kit with any names on it, and your mannequin head cannot have any markings on it. So you cannot label and mark like where you want to start your braid, but exactly where their braids are starting today, that's exactly where you want your first extension to visible cornrow braid to be placed. And listen to the instructions. Stateboard is going to read these instructions 2 times and twice only, because you have to be able to follow instructions in order to complete Stateboard, as well to know what your client is wanting. You can't read the back or follow manufacturer's instructions and how you're going to perform chemical services, okay? You are performing invisible cornrow braid. You will place the invisible cornrow braid at the front hairline. You'll be expected to follow all client protection and safety infection control procedures. You will have 10 minutes to complete this section. You'll be informed you have 5 minutes remaining. Step back to indicate you have finished. You may begin. So now they're doing an invisible cornrow braid. This is going to be section number 3 on your exam. You do not apply any hair in this braid, and candidates will be evaluated on the following tests. Invisible cornrow braid supplies are labeled in English. Implements and supplies are visibly clean. Perform invisible cornrow braid. The final appearance of the cornrow braid. Maintaining your drape throughout the section of the examination, and all items to be disinfected are disposed in the correct manner throughout the examination. All examiners have indicated they are ready to proceed. You will remove the remaining braids, brush the hair back, and dispose of the supplies used in the previous section of this examination. You'll be expected to follow all client protection, safety, and infection control procedures. You have 5 minutes to complete this section. You'll be informed you have 2 minutes remaining. Step back to indicate you are finished. The instructions will repeat. All examiners have indicated they are ready to proceed. You will remove the remaining braids, brush the hair back, and dispose of the supplies used in the previous section of this examination. You'll be expected to follow all client protection, safety, and infection control procedures. You will have 5 minutes to complete this section. You'll be informed you have 2 minutes remaining. Do not set up or demonstrate any procedures until the verbal instructions are given and you are instructed to do so. So at this time, the only thing you're going to be doing is removing the remaining braids and brushing the hair back, and step back to indicate you are finished. Do not set up anything until the verbal instructions are given. You may begin. Candidates will be evaluated on the following tasks. Items to be disinfected, soil, linen, and trash are disposed in the correct manner throughout the examination. So what you're doing now, technically you are taking down and you're sanitizing and using your safety infection control procedures for one client, and you're setting up for a new client. After this, we're going to go right into the setup for the new client. This is section 4 of the examination. You want to prepare to be at Stateboard with your drill for about an hour. So make sure you eat a nice healthy breakfast. You will not be able to stop. If you do have to stop and use the restroom, please make sure that you raise your hand and ask your examiner to do so. And make sure that it's not in the middle of one of your examinations. Make sure that it is either when you have completed the examination or you're waiting for others to complete the examination to proceed. You have 2 minutes remaining. Extension to individual braid. When you hear extension, that means you're going to be adding hair to the individual braid. Individual braid is a box braid, okay? You will perform an extension to individual braid. You will place the individual braid extension at the front hairline. You will extend the hair no more than 6 inches beyond the natural hair length. You will be instructed individually by the examiner to demonstrate the braid removal. Do not begin to remove the braid until instructed individually by the examiner to do so. They're going to instruct you individually so that they can make sure that you are starting from the bottom and removing your braid in the proper manner, each student. So do not start until the examiner comes to you individually and asks you to remove your braid. You will have 10 minutes to complete this section. You'll be informed you have 5 minutes remaining. Step back to indicate you have finished. The instructions will repeat. You will perform an extension to individual braid. You will place the individual braid extension at the front hairline. You will extend the hair no more than 6 inches beyond the natural hair length. You'll be instructed by the examiner individually to demonstrate the braid removal. Do not begin to remove the braid until instructed individually by the examiner to do so. You'll be expected to follow all client protection, safety, and infection control procedures. You have 10 minutes to complete this section. You'll be informed you have 5 minutes remaining. Step back to indicate you are finished. You may begin. Candidates will be evaluated on the following tasks. Extension to individual braid supplies are labeled in English. Implements and supplies are visibly clean. Extension is added to the individual braid. The final appearance of the extension to the individual braid. You'll be evaluated on the removal of the extension of the braid and you'll be evaluated on maintaining your drape throughout this section of the examination. Now again, you cannot bring tripods to State Board. Make sure that you are bringing a mannequin stand to put on your station and not a tripod. You have 5 minutes remaining. Sometimes they will announce when you have time remaining. They may forget to announce, so you want to make sure you're practicing this at home. Practicing this drill as much as you can at home and timing yourself. You should know about how long it takes you for every procedure and every service before you get to State Board. All candidates have indicated they are ready to proceed. You will remove the remaining braids and brush the hair back and dispose of the supplies used in the previous section of this examination. You'll be expected to follow all client protection, safety, and infection control procedures. You have 5 minutes to complete this section. You'll be informed you have 2 minutes remaining. Step back to indicate you have finished. As you can see, she is starting from the bottom and working her way up to make sure that she does not tangle or cause any breakage. We'll now proceed to section 5, work area and new client preparation. You will prepare the work area for a new client. You will set up the universal supplies you will use through the remainder of the examination. You will also set up the supplies for the following section of the examination: braid for sew-in, WEFT attachment, and shaping. You will prepare your client for services. You'll be expected to follow all client protection, safety, and infection control procedures. You will have 15 minutes to complete this session. You'll be informed you have 8 minutes remaining. Do not demonstrate any procedures until the verbal instructions are given and you are instructed to begin. The instructions will repeat. You will prepare your work area for a new client. When you're here for a new client, that means you're going to take everything down that's set up now. You're going to re-sanitize your station again, and you're going to pull out your second general supply bag and set up for your new client. Okay, so that means your drape comes off, your towel comes off, that goes in your soiled linen implements bag, and any trash goes in the trash bag under your station. Again, remember, State Board wants to see that you are properly sanitizing and using safety infection control procedures before and after every client. This is the size Ziploc bag that you want to have, and you want to label every section of the examination, so that when you are at State Board, you know what bag you're going to pull out for what section of the examination. You have 8 minutes remaining. The bags that you will set up for the examination is your first bag will be your work area and client preparation setup and supplies. That's going to be your general supplies bag with your EPA disinfectant. Your first aid kit you do not have to place in the bag, your Lysol or your hand sanitizer, but you want to have your towel in there. Any wipes, any neck strips. Your second bag is going to be your extension to visible cornrow braid. You're going to want to have things in there for your extension to cornrow braid. You want to have your hair extension, your comb, any clips that you may need. Next is going to be your individual cornrow braid bag. The only thing you'll need for that bag is going to be comb and clip, because you're not going to add any extension to the invisible cornrow braid. The fourth bag is going to be extension to individual braid. That's going to be another bag with hair, combs, and clips in. Your fifth bag is going to be another general supply bag. You have 2 general supply bags and client preparation setup of supplies. That's going to be another bag with another clean towel, clean cape or neck strip for your second section of the examination. Your sixth bag is going to be braid for sew-in. So that's going to have your braiding hair that you're going to use if you're going to braid hair in for sewing. You do not have to use hair to braid for your sewing. It is to your discretion whether you choose to add hair in to braid for the sewing or not. Your seventh bag is going to be a sewing WEFT attachment and shaping. And you can actually have that in the same bag as your braid for sewing bag. Because that's going to have your needle, your thread, your hair, and your shears for shaping the free ends of your braid and the free ends of your track only. You cannot cut the hair, you can cut the track of the weft for your sew-in weft attachment and shaping. And your 8th bag is going to be blood exposure procedures with your first aid kit items in it and your items for this safety infection control procedures. And your last bag is going to be for flat iron section. State Board of North Carolina does not administer sections 9 and 10. That's why we have moved from section 8, blood exposure, to section 11, flat iron and styling. You will perform a horizontal braid for sew-in. You will create a horizontal braid between the occipital bone and the nape from ear to ear. So, the occipital bone is here. That little knot right in the back of your head before your nape, and it's going to be from ear to ear. So it's going to be above the nape and right above the occipital bone. So you will have hair above and up under and over the braid for your sew-in. You'll be expected to follow all client protection and safety control, infection control procedures. You will be instructed individually by the examiner to demonstrate the oil application. Please remember, if you're going to be demonstrating the oil application, you have to demonstrate the safety infection control procedures with that. So that means you will have to use a spatula that looks something like this to either remove oil from your container, place the lid back on. If you're going to use oil with a nozzle, you must place this on the nozzle and then put it on your finger to put it on the mannequin. Because State Board wants to see that you are not using your fingers for oils and creams, because that's not practicing safety infection control procedures. Now, it does not matter what type of oil that you use for this section, okay? Any type of oil will use, you just cannot use your finger to go inside of a container, and you cannot place the nozzle of that container on the scalp and place it on the braid. You will have 10 minutes to complete this section. You'll be informed you have 5 minutes remaining. Do not demonstrate the oil application until instructed individually by the examiner to do so. Step back to indicate you have finished. The instructions will repeat. You may begin. Twice. Candidates will be evaluated on the following tasks. Braid for sewing supplies are labeled in English. Implements and supplies are visibly clean. Sewing weft attachment and shaping are labeled in English, and implements are, the braid is shaped at the free ends. You have 10 minutes to complete this section. Again, you do not want to demonstrate anything other than the braid for the sew-in. Do not demonstrate any procedure until the other instructions are given and you are instructed to begin. Please demonstrate the oil application. You may begin. Again, Stateboard wants to see you demonstrate the oil application using the safety infection control procedures, making sure you are using a spatula to remove the oil from your creams, or either if you're using a nozzle, that you're placing it on your spatula and then on your finger. Now, during this section of the examination, once you start doing your sew-in, this hair that is exceeded beyond, you have to imagine that if this was an actual client. If this was a client, you would not sew this track on and leave this hair hanging. So that means you're going to have fold this over and you're going to sew this down at the same time as you're sewing your track, or you're going to sew it down and then apply your track. But either way it goes, you do not want to leave this braid hanging, because you do not want, you wouldn't see your client out the door with their braid like that. You will perform a sew-in with attachment and shaping. This is section 7 of the examination. You will attach the weft of the length of the hair of the horizontal braid and shape the free ends. That means cut the free ends of the track. You will be instructed individually by the examiner to remove the weft. Do not remove the weft until instructed individually by the examiner to do so. You'll be expected to follow all client protection and safety infection control procedures. You will have 15 minutes to complete this section. You'll be informed you have 8 minutes remaining. Step back to indicate you have finished. The instructions will repeat. Good job. As you can see, they are using hand sanitizer every time they go in and out of the kit, and also every time you stop and start your service. You can have your track pre-cut the length that you need. It's your discretion as well. You also can have your needles already pre-threaded. Please keep in mind, if you're going to pre-thread your needles, that they do not get tangled. You don't want to try to be using your evaluation time to detangle your needle and thread. So if you cannot find a way that it does not tangle, you may want to thread your needle once you get to Stateboard. Candidates will be evaluated on the following tasks. Items to be disinfected are placed in the proper manner. Weft and sewing shaping supplies are labeled in English. Implements are visibly clean. Attach the weft for sew-in method. Shape the free ends of the hair and the final appearance of the weft. You will also be evaluated on the way you remove the weft. Remove the hair from your work area and maintain your drape throughout the section of this examination. And all items to be disinfected must be placed in a soiled linen and trash and are disposed in the correct manner. Now, you'll be evaluated on, you hear they said on remove your hair from your work area, because if you happen to cut hair from the free ends of the track and it's on the floor, you are going to have to pick that up, because you don't want to leave that hair there because someone can slip and fall. You don't want to allow proctors or yourself or anyone to slip on the hair. So if you have hair that you have cut off the track and it falls on the floor, you will have to pick that hair up and use your safety infection control procedures by properly sanitizing your hand after you pick the hair and place it into the trash before you start back working on another procedure or service. Please make sure you are safely using your needle and thread. Do not puncture your mannequin or your client's scalp. So you want to go in an upward motion with your needle and thread. Make sure that you are locking your thread and your needle every time you loop. The way Miss Mona is going through the needle here, so every time she pulls it through, it's automatically locking, and this track is on top of her braid and the thread is on top of the braid, not under or in between the braid. Again, you want to have at least 2 or 3 needles threaded The time that you want to thread your 2 or 3 needles is during your setup. You have about 15 minutes for your second setup. So after you finish sanitizing your station and bringing out all your implements for your sew and weft attachment for shaping, go ahead and thread up at least 3 needles. Because again, if that needle gets caught, like we just had to happen, or it gets tangled, then you have to cut that and then rethread that needle. So go ahead during your second setup and thread at least 3 needles and have them ready for your sew and weft attachment and shaping. This next section, number 8 on blood exposure, you imagine the following scenario. During its service, you have sustained a minor cut to your own index finger. The injury is such that you can continue with the service. Your work area or your client have not been contaminated. So that means you do not have to take down anything from your station or disinfect anything on your station. You're expected to demonstrate the proper procedure for blood exposure. You'll be expected to follow our client protection, safety, and infection control procedures. You have 10 minutes to complete this section. You'll be informed you have 5 minutes remaining. Step back to indicate you have finished. You will imagine the following scenario. During a service, you have sustained a minor cut to your own index finger. The injury is such that you can continue with the service. Your work area or your client have not been contaminated. You're expected to demonstrate the proper procedure for blood exposure. You're expected to follow all client protection, safety, and infection control procedures. You have 10 minutes to complete this section. You'll be informed you have 5 minutes remaining. You may begin. Washing your hands. So what you use to wash your hands, you're using that sanitizer, okay? Right? So you're not gonna walk away and go to the sink, but you're gonna use hand sanitizer to wash your hands and to go inside your first aid kit to put your glove on to get your items to disinfect your finger with. You want to also make sure that you are placing your soil items for this procedure in a separate Ziploc bag labeled blood exposure. You don't want to ever place contaminated blood into a regular trash container. So that's why you will be evaluated on how you properly dispose of your implements during this section and every section of the examination. And this is the same procedures you will use if for some reason you happen to poke yourself with a needle or cut yourself during any part of the Stateboard drill or in any other service in your salon. Candidates will be evaluated on the following tasks. Blood exposure supplies are labeled in English. Remove materials from the first aid kit by putting on your, washing your hands with your sanitizer, or your washing it if you're in the salon, you get a sink with warm soap and water. And Stateboard, you're gonna sanitize it with your hand sanitizer. Put it on your glove before you go into your first aid kit. Supplies and materials are visibly clean and clear. They are next to removing and applying their cream or antibiotic cream. Then they're gonna place the Band-Aid on. Then they're gonna take all of their trash and place it into another separate Ziploc container bag. Dispose of those items. Cleanse the injured area with antiseptic. Cover the dressing with a Dormant or Band-Aid. Wear a finger guard or glove that you're going to place on after you place your Band-Aid. And dispose of contaminated supplies in a proper manner. So now that everyone has completed their blood exposure procedures, everything is placed in a trash bag. If it's labeled blood exposure, that bag now can be placed into your trash container up under your station, and we're ready to proceed. You have 2 minutes to set up the supplies for the flat iron section of this examination. Please do not demonstrate any procedures until the verbal instructions are given and you are instructed to begin. Step back to indicate when you have finished. The instructions will repeat. This is section 11. Again, there is no section 9 or 10 for North Carolina State Board. Those procedures do not apply. You have 2 minutes to set up the supplies for the flat iron section of this examination. That's basically going to consist of plugging up your flat irons, okay? Because you already have your comb from your sew-in. So if you have another bag for your flat iron section, you will pull that bag out. And it should only have basically your heat protected comb in it, clips, and your flat iron. Please do not demonstrate until the verbal instructions are given and you are instructed to begin. Step back to indicate you are finished. You may begin. So at this time, what they're going to be doing is plugging up their flat iron and warming up your flat iron only. You want to make sure you're placing your flat iron on your towel and on your station. You also want to make sure, it's very important during this section of this examination, you should have applied a comb out cape or a hairstyling cape, which is a dry cape. You do not want to use a plastic shampoo cape during your flat iron section of the examination, because if your flat iron touches your cape, then it's going to melt, okay? And then it will also burn your client, so that's not protecting your client. So if you do not have a dry cape or a comb out cape or a hairstyling cape, you need to purchase. So you're going to bring a Stateboard in your flat ironing bag. You're going to have a comb out cape. In your first setup bag for your other services, it's okay to have a shampoo cape. Or you can just have a dry comb out cape in both bags for both sections, but you just cannot have the shampoo cape for both sections. You will perform a flat iron styling. You will straighten the hair from the crown, which is the center of the head, to the nape. You'll be expected to follow all client protection and safety infection control procedures. You have 10 minutes to complete this section. You'll be informed you have 5 minutes remaining. Step back to indicate you have finished. You may begin. Again, this procedure here, you want to make sure that you are using a heat protected comb to protect your client's scalp from the heat, and demonstrate that as you are flat ironing. Again, you're going from the crown to the nape. You don't have to go too far up. It's right about the crown area. There you go. Down to the nape. And you don't have to do the entire section. You want to take out a middle section about 3 inches, 2 or 3 inches wide from the crown to the nape. So your section wants to be something like this. So this is what your section needs to look like for your flat iron section, from the crown to the neck. Okay. Again, you see how she's using the paper towel to test the temperature of the iron, okay? You will be evaluated on that. Candace will be evaluated on the following tasks. Test the temperature of the iron using a paper towel or neck strip. Implement the supplies of this be clean. Subsection the hair for the flat iron. Demonstrate safe use of the flat iron. Final appearance of the hairstyling. Maintaining your drape throughout the session, and items to be disinfected are disposed in the correct manner. Now, to pick up your hair, you can either use a paper towel. Some people bring a small broom or dustpan that fits in their bag. It's really your discretion how you choose to pick your hair up, but you need to remove hair if you have it on the floor, and then use your safety infection control procedures after you pick up your hair. You cannot just leave your hair on the floor. All candidates have indicated they have completed this section of this examination. We will now proceed. All examiners have indicated they have completed their assessment. Make sure that all kit supplies are disposed and materials are taken with you. This concludes the National Interstate Council of State Board of Cosmetology Hairstyling Practical Examination. Thank you for your participation.